I want to welcome in Jamison Coppola, who he is a friend of ours for in a lot of ways, in a lot of practical ways, because here in the swamp you have to make friends that you can trust, and he's been one that we really trust. And he's the director of the American Association of Christian Schools, their legislative office here in Capitol Hill, and he works like us in with the legislators on issues, particularly for Christian schools, obviously, but also generally conservative. I saw you nodding as we're talking to Senator Daines about his role, and he is originally. Are you originally from Colorado?
I spent 8 years there, originally from Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
That couldn't. Well, yeah. It couldn't be different now. I don't know. Now I don't know. I mean, but Colorado has changed.
Can any good thing come out of Massachusetts?
I know, and he is in the Pensacola Christian College. Yeah. Is it a mafia? What is it? A secret? It's not a secret society. It's a Rebecca Gander went there. Jordan Henry went there. We've got. It seems like all of the best people go there and get formed. So, Jamison, thanks for coming. And first,
thanks for having me.
We appreciate your work, also your wisdom and your friendship. Same question. What's your favorite Trump promise kept?
Yeah, well, there's been a few of them.
Yeah, okay, we'll take a few.
I'll start with this, and then we'll talk about school choice, because that is a big one. But personalist policy, and man, the people that he brings in with him, we have been so pleased because they have the heartbeat of religious liberty. Mm-hmm. And our educational liberty walks hand in hand with our religious liberty. So that would be one, that he's brought in people that understand the promise of the First Amendment and are willing to work hard to see that fulfilled. Executive orders in the bureaucratic departments, religious liberty has gained a status that it didn't have prior to it. But in school choice, which is kind of close, not closer, but that's our realm too. Like our educational freedom and our religious liberty walk hand in hand. You know, even in the campaign, he promised, I think, $20 billion. And his Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, has a really fine bill that would bring federal school choice to probably 1 million U.S. children. Huh. And so he's been a strong advocate for school choice. He continues to use the bully pulpit very effectively. He's right. It's a civil rights issue.
Is for a lot of, I've been saying for 2 months, when we get to the fall, right about now, maybe 2 or 3 more weeks, as the American people, very, very many of them see how poorly their schools have adjusted to the 5-month warning that we have. Whatever the fear is, whatever the reality is, the fear is real, right? Whatever the illness is, and there is an illness, the fear is even bigger.
Right.
Now, and people are waking up and they're saying, well, I was giving my school a chance. I was giving even my private school, or I was giving my public school a chance. They didn't get it together, and they're looking at options. Are you feeling, and your association of these Christian schools, are you feeling like you're seeing people coming towards you because they want something different? And in some ways, is that enough? Are you nervous about maybe the federal government? Every time the federal government says, "Let me help you," you say, "Wait, this isn't going to work out well. I've been here before. We give me free and reduced lunches, and then tell me what my curriculum is."
Right.
What's the balance there?
Well, that's a good question, and it is one of our primary concerns. So the president's bill in school choice is a tax credit scholarship.
Right.
And so it's not direct funding, which is always problematic. The 3 words that our schools hate to hear is recipient of federal financial assistance. Uh-huh. And in the school choice bill that the president has is one that would use private donations to nonprofit organizations and the individuals that would then turn those into scholarships for students. And so there's really an arm's length transaction where people get to choose a good a civil benefit for students to go to a private school and enjoy a tax benefit for it. So you're right that school choice comes fraught with a lot of entanglement issues, and our schools are especially sensitive to that because of our religious liberty concerns.
So school choice, the future of school choice, I mean, one of the things that the president, when he says it's a civil rights issue, a lot of people in this environment, when they hear the heightened, it feels like all the media, big tech, if you want clickbait, you do something about race, right? So-and-so's a racist, so-and-so's a racist, it's a black, whatever. It feels like a feeding frenzy. Mm-hmm. And the president, when he talks about school choice, one of the places where I feel strongly that we have actually some structural racism is in the urban schools that are so often dominantly filled with African American and low income kids, but mostly African American and Hispanic kids, and they just are stuck in a system. Forget about the zip code thing. It's not the zip code thing. It's if you're in a city, and I know there's some rural ones, but how does a future where the schools that you represent could be attractive to, because all those families are Christian and they're all faith denomination. Would that possibility be a big opportunity?
Yeah, I think wherever you see school choice, you see students that are in the most need of it, and the students that you mentioned certainly are in the most need of it flock to it.
Right.
So this is a winning issue for the kids that have been trapped by poverty and the policies that have failed in the inner cities. We've got a work in Milwaukee that has an incredible ministry into that community. I think there's over 600 kids in one of our affiliated schools that enjoy the school choice program.
Oh, really? Oh,
so,
yeah. Milwaukee does have some school choice. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So incredible success with students. DC, I think the numbers are about 95% graduation rate for the kids that are in the school choice program in DC. Versus a couple of years ago, they were at a 50% graduation rate in the public school system. So school choice works. It's a civil rights issue in that every kid deserves to live out his potential. And our founders were clear about that, by the way. They understood that education was one of the ways you secured liberty.
Yeah.
Of course, their perspective on it was children needed to read so that they could have a moral foundation. They could understand Scripture. Right. And in doing so, they'd preserve liberty.
I heard someone say that when you see those Antifa and BLM riots and you see all these sort of middle and upper middle class white people that are there, they said those are not low IQ. They may be high IQ, but they're low information voters. They're low information. They don't understand what is happening, and they're there and they think they're doing something because they've been programmed with bad education, bad media. Rebecca Gantner, we've our DC director, for those that weren't paying attention, of our Phyllis-Schlafly Eagles. We were talking beforehand about some questions that we had seen on school choice and on these issues for Jamison. You have one?
Yes. Since Secretary DeVos's confirmation in 2017, she's received a lot of flack, which obviously means she's doing something right. But can you talk a little bit more specifically about what Secretary DeVos has done to improve school choice?
Well, she understands school choice. She comes out of the school choice world. And I think one of the most important things she's done for school choice is she's refocused the department to be student-centric. Right, so one of her mantras is whatever we do, we have to keep the student in mind. And certainly, as Ed was talking about, school choice has proven to be something that benefits students. So she has kept school choice in the national conversation. She's championed the cause. But even more than that, she's redirected the focus in the department to be a student-centric focus instead of sometimes the bureaucratic red tape that becomes the focus of a department. I see that as one of the highlights of her time there.
We for those that are watching on Eagle Countdown, we have for decades, Phyllis Schlafly wrote what's called the Education Reporter. We continue today. It's a newsletter that talks about education policy, and in particular, for about 25 years, Phyllis has focused on the teachers' unions. And I don't know if you want to go as far as I will, because that's just what I do. But to me, the teachers' unions are really the enemy of the people in this country, and I mean that totally sincerely. I don't mean it's a hyperbole. What they've done to become, they're no longer. Eric Hoffer, the famous longshoreman philosopher, said every great cause begins as a movement, becomes a business, and eventually degenerates into a racket.
Yeah.
And the school teachers union, I know some of our viewers get mad at me because they don't even want to believe the teachers union was ever good, but I'm willing to concede the cause was at one time positive. I think I'll concede that. But today it's a racket where the teachers union pay to protect the politicians in places and the school boards. They put the school boards in place and they manage things. And I really think that if we have one fruit of this is to break the teachers unions out of this period, to say we have to stop the teachers unions. And you don't have to agree or not, but I want to transition a little bit. One of the things that they've allowed, the teachers unions and the school boards, is horrendous curriculum. So a week ago, the President of the United States says we're going to have a commission to teach kids patriotism, to teach kids the Constitution, to teach kids the founding values, not 1619, not Howard Zinn, but the founding of our country was Judeo-Christian, ethical, and that's how you get the rule of law. How badly are we behind the eight ball in this country because of the education where we failed on that question? And can we do it in our public schools? Or is your sense that it's going to be outside of the public school system?
Yeah, those are hard questions to answer, but let me take a shot at it. First of all, you talked about the teachers' unions and the failures of the schools and how they really have kind of circled around teachers instead of students.
Yeah.
And the COVID, one of the silver linings is it's made the theoretical of school choice the practical, right? It's made what we talk about as far as parents having choice. Now parents see why that's essential. So that's really important point. And then so far as your question about the curriculum question. Like, the president is right, but our thought is freedom works, right? We shouldn't, in some sense, have to have the president saying this is what we should be doing, because the federal government shouldn't be that involved in education. But I'm glad, again, he uses the bully pulpit to elevate this issue. In our schools, we have an extremely patriotic focus. We think it'd be great if more kids could go to schools that are going to give them a patriotic focus. So I think school choice answers a lot of even those questions about curriculum, where if you break the monopoly of what are no longer really public schools, but almost function as government schools, if you break that monopoly through school choice, you'll get an organic patriotism, you'll get an organic curriculum that parents, I think, want, but they're unsure of how to get it.
You got another question?
Yes. Ed was talking about curriculum in public schools. So the U.S. Department of Education published regulation last week implementing President Trump's executive order on religious liberty on college campuses and in universities. What kind of changes do you think we might be able to expect? Will we see changes in favor of religious liberty on public schools?
Well, anytime you're talking about these things, I think you see changes. Some of these changes, forgive me for quoting Nietzsche, but he said, the light of distant stars takes time to be seen. Deeds, though done, take time to be seen. And some of these things, I think, will have a longer term effect than just the immediate. In the immediate, I mean, we're thrilled that he's making it a priority for higher ed. If they're going to take money, then obviously religious student groups shouldn't be excluded from a publicly funded campus. And so we're thrilled with those sorts of executive orders, the executive order that returns a teacher's right to be religious in school, and numerous things that affect education. Really important rhetorical points, really important marks in the sand, putting that mark down as an executive order. So emphasis on religious liberty.
We've asked every one of our Eagle Countdown guests the same two questions, so we sort of compare it, we grade them, and then we'll send you a report card on this. We grade on a scale, though, so everybody gets an A. It's America now, so
I was after that generation.
I
didn't get the participation trophy.
Well, in fact, Jamison Coppola, tell us where people can learn more about your organization, website and all, before I forget that.
Yeah, aacs.org. That's the American Association of Christian Schools. AACS.org is our website. And we have a tab there for our legislative office. Sign up for our Washington Flyer, which is a weekly accounting of education issues that impact people involved in private religious education.
AACS.org.
Okay.
So, but the second question we ask everybody, and if you're tuning in right now on Eagle Countdown, just a few minutes we'll be with Sidney Powell. I know folks are clamoring. It's only Jamison Coppola. He's going to save our children. Right. Sidney Powell's going to save all the convicts and the attacks.
I'm a fan of Sidney.
I know. Just teasing. So I didn't. If you weren't, we'd have a different problem here. But
great American.
So she's a huge fan of yours too.
I'm glad to hear it.
So. The second question I ask everybody is this one, 42 days left. If you're on Eagle Countdown, people are sitting there going, man, he's right, our schools, we got to protect our religious liberty. In terms of policy, in terms of what you feel, what should people be doing? What should people be doing, thinking, besides, I bet you'd say praying. You got to keep your prayers in line. And then after you get up off your knees, then what should people be thinking about the election and about what's happening? And perhaps maybe sort of slide that towards, the Republican caucus in the Congress maybe you should go back to this question first, but it's not always reliable on some of these issues. This president's made them more. So as people are looking at the 42 days, what are you telling them?
Man, educate yourself and vote. I mean, that's really important. As far as school choice goes, there are a couple of bills in Congress right now. Rand Paul's got a really fine education scholarship bill. And so keep the conversation going about school choice, keep the pressure up. It's amazing to me what this president has been able to accomplish just by using his voice and his influence. So I would say keep pressing on these issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, and same segue. No matter who wins, but let's say the president has a second term. Maybe we've got then you got to get it done, right? I mean, this is what you know. It's a lot of talk, and a lot of talk is good, but then you got to get it done. Maybe you get this or that break. So, Jamison, thanks again. AACS.org to learn more about his work. Jamison Coppola, thanks for the time. Yeah, we appreciate it. Okay, everybody, I'm going to introduce a video.